Well, on the way to church to make his first confession, my best little subject of jokes, little Johnny, seemed kind of nervous, and so he asked his mother what he was supposed to do. And his mom said, well, confession is where you tell all the bad things that you've done to the priest. And Johnny seemed to be satisfied with that. He kind of leaned back in the car and felt more relaxed and thought for a minute, and he goes, well, that's really good, because I haven't done anything bad to the priest. That's going to go pretty fast. So we're continuing this morning in our study of the Beatitudes, and we are seeking to learn as well as apply the spiritual principles that Jesus revealed in the Sermon on the Mount. And this week we're looking at the 5th and 6th. There are 8 in total, and so we're on our 3rd week. We're looking at the 5th and 6th Beatitudes. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. And blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And what I love about these instructions that Jesus is giving us is they offer really grand promises, don't they? That if we follow the wisdom and develop the mindset of the first half, or we'll get the grand promise of the second half of the Beatitude if we follow the wisdom, the instructions, and develop the mindset that he's talking about in the first half. Blessed are you if you have this mindset. You'll achieve all of this great stuff, or you'll become all of this wonderful way. You'll live in this wonderful bliss and experience. Blessed are you if you do this, you shall be, or you shall become, or you shall experience this wonderful thing. And these are, I like to think, living transmissions of spirit. This is the Spirit of God being shown and revealed through the mind of Jesus. It's the mind of Christ coming through the mind of Jesus as he's speaking out into our minds this living spiritual truth for the attitudes of consciousness that we can develop in order to live in the kingdom, live in oneness with God, live in the bliss and the love of all that we are. So these Beatitudes that we're looking at today promise some really glorious things. They promise mercy, and then no less than we shall see God. The blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. So he's going to tell us the mindset, or what we need to do to be able to see God. Pretty interesting, isn't it? First, we look at blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. And the word mercy came later in a Greek translation. You know that I'm working with the book by Neil Donald Klotz, The Prayers of the Cosmos, and he does the Aramaic translation from the native language of Jesus to translate not only the words, but the idioms and the customs and how it would have been, to learn each word and what it means. And the Aramaic word that's used in this beatitude, in its ancient root, means not mercy, but it's the word for womb. Womb, W-O-M-B, womb. And the translation that's being conveyed in this beatitude, it is the inner motion extending from the depths of the body, radiating heat. So we could say that it's the fire in the belly. That it is the warmth of love that we feel when we extend ourselves to help another. It's that radiation of warmth and that radiation of love. In Aramaic, it translates, blessed are those who from their inner wombs birth mercy. They shall feel the intensity and passion of it embrace them. Blessed are those who from their inner wombs birth mercy. They shall feel the intensity and passion of it embrace them. So in this beatitude, Jesus is using the fire in the belly, the heat of our passions and our desires, to reveal to us the law of consciousness, The law of consciousness, that what comes to us is what comes out from us. What we release from us is what we draw to us. Those who are merciful obtain mercy. Those who extend love obtain love. Those who extend forgiveness achieve forgiveness, have a forgiving heart. So he's using the mercy, or this fire in the belly, to teach the law of consciousness. What comes to us is what we live from the depths of our being, he's saying. What you take on in consciousness, what you have as your dominant mindset will be your life, he's saying. What we release from within the deepest place inside of us will become our living reality and will be embraced by that very thing. So if you live loving, you're embraced by love. If you live forgiving, you're embraced by forgiveness. If you live mercy and compassion, there's mercy and compassion abounds for you. It just comes right back it actually flows out through you, and you feel it when it goes out through you, and so then it embraces you as it passes through you, it embraces you. Jesus is telling us also that it's not sufficient, in the way he uses this beatitude, he's telling us that it's not sufficient to know about something. It's not sufficient to know about mercy or to know about love. He said that's opinion. That's opinion. He's now telling us that we have to actively use these qualities and have them come alive in us for us to obtain that mindset or that consciousness. We have to allow mercy to come alive in us in order to develop that mindset. We have to use mercy and compassion. In order to be love, we have to use love. We have to be loving to have love come alive in us. To show mercy is now not to feel sorry for someone. Is to treat the person as the precious creation of God that they are, and to live from that place in consciousness, to learn to live with that respect and that honoring and that sacred worth of every human being. When I was preparing my lesson this week, I found this quote by, of all people, Albert Einstein. And he said, "Even when others are at their lowest ebb, it's possible to help them restore their self-belief by keeping a firm, clear vision of their goodness." Isn't that a wonderful way to have mercy? Even when others are at their lowest ebb, it's possible to help them restore their self-belief by keeping a firm, clear vision of their goodness. And then he went on to say, taking a gently encouraging approach, I must never give up on anyone. Practicing that compassion and that mercy. There was a time when I must have given this lesson in the past in Nashville, and I made a promise that I was going to ramp up my ability to be compassionate. I was going to actively look for places to live with more compassion. And a friend shared with me something I'll always remember, because he was a big volunteer. He made a dedication to volunteer all the time, but he would pick an organization and volunteer for 2 years. And going in, he'd say, I'm here for 2 years, and at the end of 2 years, he'd go somewhere else. Started at Easter Seals, and then Veterans, and then the Ronald McDonald House, but he was always volunteering 2 years at a time to different organizations. And he said, Cherie, when you make a decision to be of service, he said, the best place you can volunteer, the place where you can be of most service, is within a 50-mile radius of your own home. He said it's great to go to Africa and Sri Lanka and now Puerto Rico and Texas and Florida or Santa Rosa, but he said you can be most effective within a 50-mile radius of your own home, because you know the resources. You can travel there. You know the quickest way, most efficient way to get help, and you can be of greatest service. And so I took that to heart. And there were two elementary school teachers in my congregation that were starting a project, an after-school care program in the projects. There was a group of subsidized housing right across the street from a little elementary school. And so these two teachers decided to do an aftercare program. And so the mayor gave us an apartment, a 3-bedroom apartment in the projects. And we started this after-school program. And there were about, Let's see, the church was, what sparked it is that we learned, I mean, it's easy to know this information, but there were children that were starving in downtown Nashville. And downtown Nashville was 8 miles. Here sat our church. This is Franklin Road, and here's downtown. 8 miles straight down, same road. There are children starving. And so we made a decision to do the aftercare program for these students, and we got an apartment in the projects. And the mayor the mayor donated the apartment to us, and we had 3 shifts. The children could come and stay for an hour each day, from 3 to 4, 4 to 5, or 5 to 6. There were 3 shifts. We ended up having, we started with 30 or 40 children. We ended up with 60, and that was really all that we could take. We had to turn some children away. They could come and stay for an hour, and they got a snack. And then in each bedroom, in one bedroom, there was arts and crafts. And another bedroom, there was help with homework. And in another bedroom, there were 5 computers to learn computers. Or wait, maybe that was play computer games, you know. And so they would come, they'd have a snack, help with homework. And one of the morning drive shows, radio shows, got a hold of that. And so they came down and broadcast live from our little apartment in the project. And they kept saying, what do you need? What do you need? And so we were naming all these things. You know, we need art supplies. We need a freezer for snacks. We need money. We need whatever. And Tony Hawk, the famous skateboard guy, if you're a kid, you know who he is, donated a skateboard that we could auction off. We auctioned that off for $900. And then a woman called and bought a freezer and had it delivered. And Office Depot gifted us with arts and crafts enough to last us for a year. And while we're there, a few local politicians, I was going to say it was Bob Corker, but it wasn't Bob Corker at the time. It might have been Lamar Alexander. They all stopped by for a photo op, right? You know. And we were lined up to get to talk on the radio where they could say a few words. And then all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and Microsoft had deployed a team of geeks with 5 brand new computers, and they worked all through the morning to set them up with the printers and get everything done. And so it was a lovely time, a lovely, oh yeah, and another place donated spaghetti dinners for a year, because the kids that were there later in the afternoon. So everyone who participated, not just that day, but in the aftercare program, obtained mercy. I mean, we were flooded with a consciousness of serving and giving and loving and helping because we were doing that actively. I never thought of myself as having a regular habit of driving into the projects. And what was really interesting is the drug dealers were there. They were on every corner down the street, but they gave us safe passage because we were there in winter and it was dark by 4:30. And so they gave us safe passage and even watched our cars for us. And I always thought, oh, they think we're raising future customers for them. But we weren't. We were affirming the children, and it was so wonderful to sit with the children and visit with them in color. Another woman donated a rocking chair. And we had a rocking chair in the living room, and there was an older woman who was very grandmotherly, and the kids would come in, and sometimes they'd just crawl in her lap, and she would rock them for an hour. For their whole hour, they would just stay nestled in her lap. Blessed are those who from their inner wombs birth mercy. They shall feel the intensity and passion of it embrace them. That's how that translates in Aramaic. And that's how we work within consciousness. That's how we develop that mindset. It doesn't mean you have to go volunteer somewhere. You can volunteer here and set up on a Sunday or bring the flowers or whatever. But whatever that passion is in you, when you follow that, it gives you courage. This beatitude asks us to step outside ourselves to offer what's on fire inside us. And paradoxically, in doing so, we're embraced by the enormity of that very thing. Oh, I have a passion for flowers. Oh, I have a passion for children. Oh, I have a passion. Whatever that fire in the belly is, Jesus is saying, flow it out. Give it out, because you feel it when it flows out from you, but it just comes right back to you and embraces you. It awakens our divine nature when we act with mercy. or we express any quality that fires our belly in the Christ spirit, we awaken our divine nature. Our ego, the small s self, is superseded by the Christ self, by the full blossoming of the Christ self. And there's a surge of life that'll bring you back from the dead. It'll bring you back from the dead. When you give birth to that warmth and that fire that's in you and you let it flow, it's all consuming. Blessed are those who from their inner wombs birth mercy. They shall feel the intensity and passion of it embrace them. Our sixth beatitude is, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And this beatitude makes a really grand promise. We get to see God. Okay, so when it pure in heart, oh no. How's your heart doing? Is it pure? Let's see. A pure heart means in Aramaic to recognize God as the only real power in existence. And to see in Aramaic, blessed are those who are pure in heart, for they shall see God. To see really takes on an interesting connotation here. Seeing spiritually, your physical eyes no longer become organs of sense impressions that register images. That's not what to see in this beatitude means. It means they become channels of expression for the purity of God. It means that they become actual transmission, they make an actual projection or a streaming of God consciousness straight from the purity of your heart. So you drop into that heart, you recognize God as the one presence, one power, one love, and then when you look, you see from that purity, and you're streaming all of that creative power, so that it translates, blessed are you when your heart recognizes God alone. You shall understand or have the power that moves and shows itself in all things. Blessed are you when your heart recognizes God alone, because you shall have the power that moves and shows itself in all things. And this power is the universal God consciousness. This power is the Christ presence. We can't see it with our physical eyes. It's not tied to anything we can see or that we can touch. But in God, in Christ consciousness, from God, you say, I see a healed body. In alignment in your heart with the one presence, the one power, I see harmony in my family. I see my right and perfect job. And you're streaming the purity of God consciousness, and your eyes then are no longer these organs that register images, but they are creative projections of the purity of spirit. Are you with me? I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? What I am seeing is streaming out of my conscious union with God, and thus becomes all-powerful. And when I put my spoken word with it, I see a healed body. I see the fires out. I see people divinely restored. I see divine order in my life. You become just this instrument of spirit. Blessed are you when your heart holds awareness of God alone. You shall see the power that moves and shows itself in all things. Now, to make this practical, there may be some area in your life where you're using your physical eyes to look at the appearances, and the appearances don't look so great. You're streaming an appearance that's building negativity. And so the answer to that is to purify your heart, to get yourself into a high and holy place and purify your heart. And I was reading in my devotional reading this week, I have a lot of all-time favorite books, but Quiet Talks with the Master by Eva Bell Werber. And we have an order form for it on the back table. She wrote a series of books, not unlike Elizabeth Sand Turner, but they're all their original conversations with God. You know, she's talking as if God is speaking directly to you, and I'll read an excerpt from it. Because I found this week when I was preparing this message that this was an instruction, her lesson here was an instruction for how to purify our hearts so that we can see God. How do you purify your heart? How do you let go of the worries? How do you stop the monkey mind? How do you do whatever? And so she has this passage called Bring Your Burdens. Bring your burdens. She says, I've told you how, and this is God speaking as she's writing. I have told you how you must learn to talk to me. As you come each morning in quiet humbleness, and we're learning all about humility and surrender in the Beatitudes, aren't we? As you come each morning in quiet humbleness to the door of the golden throne room of your heart, the door swings wide for you, and you enter as a weary pilgrim, carrying your dust-covered burdens that you've gathered along life's highway. As you kneel before my presence on the throne, take from your heart, one by one, these burdens. Some shall seem almost too small and trivial to have made so large a bundle, and so recently acquired that you wonder at its weight upon you. Others you may have carried a long time, and these will be bound by the very fibers of your heart. Right? See yourself humbled and in that throne room, giving up those burdens. Anything, no matter how small, that fetters the soul must be taken from your shoulders. So give them all to me. Talk them over with me. Say, my Lord and King, this may seem small, but it bothers and hinders me. Take it, that I may be free. And then, as these burdens, whether great or small, and the small shall always far exceed the great in number, as these burdens are given over into my keeping, they shall immediately be consumed by the holy fire on my altar, and you shall stand straight and free in my presence. You entered the throne room through a wide door as a human carrying a heavy burden. When you leave, the door remains closed, and you go out as a free spirit. No burden can go through that closed door into the outer again, and the fragrant incense of my altar fires will cling to your garments, and you shall all the day walk among your fellow men with the signs of my presence upon you. Isn't that a beautiful visualization? I just love that. And I thought, how do you purify your heart? She goes on to say, go forth free. You shall learn in time to come often to the throne room. You shall not wait and come only when you've gathered many burdens, for while you are on the plane of human thought, you will always acquire burdens. Doggone it. The small annoying things are among the common lot, but you will learn to come often through the wide open door and to talk to me of things which seem constantly to disturb you. The door is always open when you come, but always closed when you leave. Remember, no burden is too large nor small to bring to my presence, but none go back out with you. You say, and this is the part, this is my monkey mind, this is where I go right to this part. You say, Lord, suppose I feel again the weight of the same old burden. It may be hard for me to recognize that I do not still have it upon my heart, right? Busted, just, Lord, I feel again the weight of the same old burden. It may be hard for me to recognize that I do not still have it upon my heart. And the voice responds, at first it may seem so, but as you come again and again, fettered, and go forth free, it will come into your consciousness that it is only the memory of the old burden which you carry away with you. And the time will not be long until even the memory shall not go through the closed door. And as these things are taken from you, and your mind is left serene and open to my voice and my influence, you will find that all the affairs of your outer life will fall into the rhythm of my step, and a harmony such as you have never dreamed possible shall possess your being. So to purify our hearts, the steps are come into that throne room and surrender the things that bother us to talk over, and it purifies our heart. And it may take a couple of times. We may have to go again and again, but we leave them there and go out the closed door and go on about our business. And that purifies that heart. And after a time, we begin to see the world with spiritual eyes. We begin to be able to stream that consciousness, which is purified, and create anything in our world. As Miss Werber says, you'll find that all the affairs of your outer life will fall into the rhythm of my step, and a harmony such as you have never dreamed possible shall possess your being. She closes with, let us work together, my child, as two who are indeed one. We go back into that oneness with God. Let us work together, my child, as two who are indeed one. Let us talk together. Come to me as my beloved, for I would have you free. Free for my creative work, free to grow and blossom and bear fruit in my service. Go now, but come often and talk to me, for I have things to tell you as you draw close to me in the sweet peace of my sanctuary in your heart. So I love that. When I was writing my message, I was doing my morning meditation, and I thought, how do we purify our hearts? And I just thought that was just such a beautiful, beautiful expression. Blessed are you when your heart recognizes God alone. You shall regard the power that moves and shows itself in all things. Right? So this week, that's our goal. In these Beatitudes, the living transmissions of Spirit, Jesus is inviting us over and over to go into that inner chamber, to get still, to surrender and release all to God. And as we do that over and over again, everything begins to coagulate and conform itself to the consciousness of the Christ. And then we live out from that. So let's take that idea for a minute into prayer as we close, and kind of let these Beatitudes that we've been studying be alive in us in this moment. Let them stir in your heart from the beginning. Blessed are you when you soften what is rigid within you. And the second one translated, let yourself be reconciled inside by love. And the third, you who are humble and surrendered into God, may you harness what is wild and unrestrained within you to take dominion of your life. And the fourth, blessed are you when you hold the high watch to draw the object of your heart. You shall be fulfilled and satisfied. And today, as you let the fire of your heart give you the courage to act, may you live closer to the true essence of love that God is, and stream that power and that life into your own life and into the world. Blessed are you. Blessed are you. And so it is. Amen.